Welcome to the Get Published podcast, sponsored by Brodie Consulting Group. To get more information about our coaching, publishing, executive ghostwriting, and podcast production services, go to getpublishedpodcast.com. Hello, I am Paul Brodie, and thank you for joining us for another episode of the Get Published podcast, where we help authors get published with a proven system that works. Today, we're being joined by Allison Carmen, author of The Gift of Maybe. Allison, welcome to the show.
Oh, thank you so much for having me, Paul.
Are you ready to get started?
Yes, I am.
All right. Question number one. What is the one piece of advice that you would give to a first-time author who is currently writing their book?
I think the most important piece of advice that I can give is that you need to write about something that is extremely meaningful to you, because publishing is a very long road. I actually found it was easier to write the book than to get my book published. So the fact that The Gift of Maybe, the book that I wrote, was so meaningful to me and meaningful to my clients and everyone that I work with, it not getting published immediately was not a distraction. So I stay focused, keep it to something that's very, very meaningful to you. And whatever you do, don't give up. Keep going on, because, you know, your book, get it out there. And nowadays you can self-publish, you can find a publisher. So no matter what you write, it's an open road at this point. So it will get published. It's just how you do it is uncertain at this point. But if you stay on top of it, you stick to the meaning and you're tenacious, something will happen. Your words will be read by other people.
And what do you feel is the hardest part about getting published?
Well, for me, I found the hardest part when I was a first-time author was to get recognized. I think what happens is the trap is that everybody wants you to already have a following. Everybody always wants you to have a prior book that was published. And when you're starting out, you don't always have a huge platform. So for me, that was what was difficult. I wrote a really beautiful book. It was about how people face uncertainty in their life. But everyone was like, who is this person? We don't know her. We're not going to back her. We're not going to put money, behind her. So I ended up getting an agent who was a very well-known agent, but I got rejected 45 times. And so I kept pursuing it again and again, but eventually I self-published my book. And then a big publisher, Penguin Random House, picked it up 5 months later. But coming out the first time and building a platform and getting recognition on your own, I think is the most difficult thing, but it's possible. You just have to, again, just keep going out there, keep spreading your messages, and don't be afraid to self-publish your book. There's nothing wrong with that. You can get recognition through that, and my story is a big publisher picked me up, so it is possible.
Well, and I would love to take a little deeper dive into that. So how did that end up happening? I know you mentioned that you got a literary agent that was very well known. So what was that process from when you self-published it to getting that agent to then having that relationship with Penguin and Random House?
Well, when I self-published, the funny thing is my agent she threw her hands up. She's like, I don't know what to tell you, Allison. I think you should keep sending it out. But after 45 rejections, in the book I actually thought it was 25, but after my book was published I actually counted it. And so when I self-published, I was on my own. I went through Create Space with Amazon, which I thought was a great platform. This was many years ago, but I really enjoyed working with them. And it was quiet at first, but they have this program, and I don't remember how long you have to have the book out there, that you could give it away for free. And when I was about to give it away for free for about 3 or 4 days, I went on this thing I think called Author Central, and they had all these places that you could advertise your book. And so I advertised through all these different places, and then I also advertised through this place called BookBub. And at the time, I remember they had some requirements, but I had met them because I was building my platform for so long. And many people had made reviews on my book. So whatever the requirements were, I satisfied them. So BookBub launched at the same time my book was free. And within a couple of days, I ended up on the bestseller list. I think like 32,000 people downloaded the book, and it became a bestseller. And then I was able to call my agent and say, hey, my book's sitting right next to Wayne Dyer's book on the bestseller list. What can we do? And she sent it out again, and a couple of people picked it up. I had 3 choices, actually, and I went with Penguin Random House.
Excellent. Well, I know you've already touched on this a little bit, but I would like to get a little more information about the marketing strategy that you've used in your book launch that has worked well. Now, you mentioned, you say BookBub, is that correct?
BookBub was amazing. I also I became a blogger about a year before I launched my book, and I think that was a really great way to build followers. I know some people, it depends what your book is about, but to build an audience that way, especially if it's like a how-to-do book or a self-help book, that's a great thing. I know that I have friends that, if they wrote a romance novel or something like that, they join Facebook groups and all these different things. For me, Facebook only became relevant when I started to write for magazines, and that was a good thing too. If you're able to write for a magazine that's related to what you're writing about, if it's business, if it's self-help. Like for me, once my book was picked up by Penguin Random House, I was able to write for Psychology Today and Huffington Post and Inc.com, and I find those platforms are really great because you could also market your book through there. Instagram has been very helpful to me. But ultimately, I think it was giving away my book for free for a couple of days and also getting on BookBub that I think was the most effective thing. And I know that with, I think, Kindle Direct, I don't remember the name of it, you could do it every so often. And it's a great way to kind of get yourself out there. And then also what you could do, sometimes I'll give other information away, maybe 10 points of how to reduce stress or worry. So you could also send out supportive material for free and collect emails and then write newsletters. The more information you can get to people and the more you could build a following, the more likely you're going to build your platform, and then you're either going to sell books on your own or you're going to get somebody to pick up your book, a big publisher.
Well, I was going to ask you too, do you have any specific strategies that you use with BookBub? Because they are very difficult to get your book accepted by them. So were there any strategies that you use specifically that would help our audience?
I think that when I applied to them, I had already built a platform. And I built the platform through blogging, through creating a big following on my Facebook account. I had a large email list. I think I might have been writing already for a few publications, so I think that helped. But I think it was the fact that I had some stuff already behind me, and I think I also had about 74 book reviews on Amazon. I think that's also another important point. Getting reviews on Amazon is so important, especially when you're a self-published author, because the more reviews you have, the more likely a place like BookBub is going to pick you up. And another thing that I remember that I did is that Amazon had these people who like to review books often, and if you go into your category and you write these people and you send them your book, sometimes they actually give you a review. And because these people are ranked in Amazon, I think that also is very helpful to attract more readers and probably supported my entry into BookBub.
Well, speaking of books, I'd like to know, what is your favorite book and what was the number one thing that you learned from it?
I have many favorite books, but one of my favorite books is a book called The Four Agreements. And why I like it, I'm a self-help author, so I really like books that could really shift your perspective very easily. And this book has 4 points. And the points are: be impeccable with your speech, don't take anything personally, don't make any assumptions about any situation or any particular person, and always do your best. And there's something about this book, it just really hits the point at every point, and it's short. And it really shifted my perspective. And anything that does that, anything that can reduce your stress and worry, make you more confident, make you love yourself more, and make you be able to, move forward in the world with less fear and worry, is a beautiful book. So I highly recommend the book, The Four Agreements.
And for our final question, what is your favorite quote and why?
My favorite quote is "Maybe everything's okay." And my book is about this idea of maybe. And this idea of maybe is the hope within the unknown. I think most of us don't move forward in life because we worry, we're afraid of the unknown. And we forget that if we want our life to change, it has to happen in the unknown. And when we start to see uncertainty as our best friend, life starts to change. And so maybe everything is okay. It's just a reminder that we don't know what's going to happen next. And because we don't know, maybe it could be good, maybe it could get better, or maybe we could find a way to accept what's happening and still be okay. So this idea of maybe always lifts me out of any difficult situation. It always gives me hope. So it's a beautiful mantra. You could say maybe, or maybe everything's okay, and it always I don't know, it alleviates stress and worry in my life.
Allison, I want to thank you for being a guest on the show. What is the best way for people to find you online?
My website is AllisonCarmen.com. And you could always email me through my website, and you could read my work. And my podcast is 10 Minutes to Less Suffering, and you could find that on iTunes.
Allison, thank you once again for being on the show, and I wish you all the best in your author journey ahead.
Thank you, Paul.
Thanks again for joining us today. To learn more about how you can be featured in our brand new Get Published business book, go to getpublishedpodcast.com.